Labour's planned welfare reforms, they are controversial. And with the details now announced on what would be cut, the party could be facing a major rebellion. Back after this. Hi, I'm Matt Barbet. This is the Sky News Daily. Now, Labour wants to cut £5 billion from the welfare budget. Personal independence payments and universal credit are among the benefits that are set to be changed, to the concern of disability groups and a growing number of Labour's own MPs.
When they say cut back, we say fight back. When they say cut back, we say fight back. Cut back.
Our political correspondent Tamara Cohen can explain why the government faces a rebellion over welfare reforms.
My friends, my family are very angry about this.
There are alternative, more compassionate ways to balance the books.
Changing the PIP rules, the criteria, will result in immense suffering.
Tamara, let's begin by asking you to quickly help us understand exactly what Liz Kendall wants to do at the moment to the benefit system in England.
So Liz Kendall, who's the Welfare Secretary, she announced a couple of months ago that she wanted to undertake a major reform of the welfare system, which she said was not fit for purpose and was trapping people on benefits who could be in work. It will also, the government said, save £5 billion, and that got a lot of disabled people very worried about who might lose their benefits. Now, today they have published their proposals, and I've got them here now. The Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Bill, 22 pages long, and largely from when she announced all this back in March, there were a lot of Labour MPs and MPs from other parties who were very concerned about it. It's pretty much as she set out. There has been a couple of small changes on how long people can keep their benefits for after they've been told they will lose them. It's up to about 4 months from 1 month. The major changes are going to be to personal independence payment, or PIP. That is a benefit to help disabled people basically with the costs of daily life. It's not for people out of work. Some people are working and they say they really need that extra money for all the costs associated with getting to work and doing their work. So that is the main thing. And the people who lose that will lose an average of £4,500 a year. The other major change is to universal credit. Now, you've got well over 3 million people on universal credit. The health element of it is currently £97 a week. That will be frozen, and new claimants will only be able to get it at a lower rate. And there's also a suggestion that you won't be able to claim that if you're under 22 years old. So the idea is, Liz Kendall says, to help disabled people into work. The concern among many of those people is that they may just lose benefits and not find a job, so they may be plunged into poverty.
Which will be concerning for a lot of those people. The cost of it is also concerning for a lot of taxpayers too. You mentioned there the government wanting to save money on the big welfare bill. Is that because the system isn't necessarily sustainable at the moment?
Well, that's what the government say. Just to give you one figure, the number of people claiming PIP has more than doubled since 2019. You were getting 13,000 new claimants a month before the 2019 election. You're now getting 34,000. We don't know how much of it is fueled by COVID, people being on long waiting lists, general issues with the cost of living, but the number is going up a lot, and the government say it is simply unsustainable and the whole system needs to be looked at again. They've also pointed out that there's been a big rise in young people claiming it, and there's also been a rise in claims for anxiety and depression, which are, of course, serious conditions, but conditions that the government say should be treated rather than people being given benefits. So Liz Kendall has put out a release today. She says our social security system is at a crossroads. Unless we reform it, more people will be denied opportunities and it won't be there for people who need it. I think the response of some of the disability groups, they describe it as catastrophic, one of the biggest reforms, in years. They say their concern is that although the government want to put £1 billion into schemes to help disabled people into work, and everybody who I've spoken to welcomes that and thinks that's a good idea, that too many disabled people aren't given the right support to get into work. They're worried that it won't help all the people who lose out, that it will be slow to kind of build, given the numbers of people who will be, hundreds of thousands of people stand to lose their benefits. And they're also worried that people will simply struggle to survive without these extra payments.
Back to the system. It is being described by some as broken. No easy way to just completely fix it. But why is the government, why are Labour pushing to do it in this way?
This comes on the back of a very tough time for people on benefits under austerity. And that's a really important backdrop because, interestingly, the UK is a bit of an outlier in the rising benefits bill. Other countries have not seen it rise in the same way or have so many people who are not in work or educational training. And the disability groups say this is because of austerity, which they say, George Osborne spent years cutting back benefits and saying it would help people into work. It often didn't help people into work, and they say it caused a lot of knock-on effects for, the NHS and social care, so it may not have even saved that much money. Labour say that they are doing it differently, and, we heard from Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister today, saying, Labour is all about compassion and social justice, but compassion and social justice means helping those who can work into a job. So they say this is different, but to a lot of people affected, it does sound like more of the same.
You mentioned the coalition government of 15 years ago when it came in between the Conservatives and the Lib Dems, and that will spark in some people's memories the A word, austerity. Is that being talked about here? Because there are definite similarities to what that government did.
There are. I think what's really important is, first of all, the welfare bill kept going up then, and it will keep going up now. So just important to say what the government's mitigation. They say that of the people who are on PIP right now, 90% will keep it. Others dispute that, but they say most people who are currently on it will keep it. It will just be fewer people who will be able to claim it in future, and some people will be reassessed. They say that there will be more claimants at the end of this Parliament than there were at the beginning, but they're just slowing the rate of increase. So the welfare bill went up under the coalition, it will go up now. It's still the case that people who ask for a reassessment, who challenge a benefits decision, quite often actually get their benefits back. They say that they're continuing to support people who with the most serious conditions. And one key aspect of this is actually that 200,000 people, I know that's not loads in the scheme of these reforms, but 200,000 people with the most serious, really debilitating conditions who will never work also won't face constant demands for work assessment. So they say that they've thought this through in terms of only asking the people who may be able to do some work to be reassessed and to get some tailored job support. It's never easy to get these benefit decisions right, but they say this is about trying to make it sustainable for the future to support the people who really, really need it.
So plenty of people, Tamara, against this, but plenty inside the Labour Party are against this. Lots of Labour MPs vocalising their dislike of these potential changes. Do you think that could lead to a full-scale rebellion inside the parliamentary party?
Yes, it definitely could, and the government are a bit worried about it. Obviously, Labour have a huge majority, so they'd need over 80 MPs to vote against these proposals to put them in real trouble. The big concern is that these have been rushed. The changes are not coming in until the end of next year, so people are not going to lose their benefits immediately. People will be reassessed from then, so it could be a while before some people on PIP actually get called in for a reassessment. Liz Kendall has been asked by a group of MPs to wait and see what look at what the impact might be. She said, no, we need to go full steam ahead. There have been some Labour MPs, 42 of them wrote a letter to The Guardian saying we cannot support these proposals. They are MPs largely on the left of the party, people who've spoken out against other benefit changes. There have been reports that 170 Labour MPs are concerned about these. I mean, certainly they are concerned about it. When it comes to actually voting against the government, that is a very different thing. I think we're going to, not see those numbers voting against it. One of the leading people against these reforms said there are probably another 30 or 40 who are kind of in play. They might abstain. Some of them might be convinced to vote against. So you've got potentially the biggest rebellion Keir Starmer has faced so far, but, it's going to be very, very difficult to stop these changes happening. I think what has possibly sharpened concerns about it is, of course, the government has now U-turned on its decision about winter fuel allowance, and U-turns always upset MPs because they vote for a difficult thing, they go out on local media and to their constituents and defend it, and then the government goes and winds back completely. So the fact there's been a U-turn on that, and the fact that there's been reports today that the government might change some of its measures on non-DOMs, for example, all that makes Labour MPs think we don't want to go and defend this and then find that they change their minds.
I have to ask Tamara, the opposition within the Labour Party, does that extend to the cabinet? Are there any inside government who might be against this? Because one name that springs to mind is the Deputy Prime Minister herself, who's been very vocal about how the welfare state has helped her get to where she's got to. She has. I don't think we're going to see any resignations from the Cabinet. Angela Rayner defended these proposals at Prime Minister's questions today. She was very forthright about it, saying that she had been helped by welfare, but that it was what Labour want to do is help people into work, that Labour is the party of work. So I don't think we're going to get anyone from the cabinet resigning, but certainly there is quite wide concern. And Liz Kendall and her Deputy Minister Stephen Timms have been having a lot of meetings. I've seen some of them in Parliament. Their MPs have told me that they've had meetings to kind of reassure people about some aspects of this. But I think one of the key things for a lot of MPs is, for the people who lose their benefits, when is the employment support coming? One of the big problems people have sometimes with the benefit system is that they get a job, they think maybe they have a condition that's up and down in its effects. They think, I'll try working, and then they find that it's too difficult or they can't do that many hours, but they've lost their benefits. So she wants to bring in that right to try so that people can try a job and not lose their benefits. So she says that's going to come in straight away, and that is one of the key asks of disability groups, and something that she hopes will reassure MPs that they're not going to have constituents going, I've lost my allowance, I'm really struggling to survive, and my first appointment with a job centre is a year away. This is all happening following the spending review last week that gave each department their money effectively for the rest of the Parliament. Today, we've had inflation stubbornly stick at 3.4%, so life is still more expensive than it should be for a lot of people. And more recently as well, we've seen UK unemployment figures going up. That presents a difficult place for the government because they don't think they've got enough money to spend, especially on things like welfare, when others like the NHS and defence are getting more. You've got a job market which is harder to get into if unemployment is rising, especially if you have a disability or if you've been out of work for quite a while. And also the money you earn isn't going as far as it should. This is difficult times for all concerned, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think that's a really good point. I mean, a lot of people think that one of the reasons fueling an increase in some benefits is just genuine difficulties with the cost of living, that exacerbating people's mental and physical health, because we know that does happen, exacerbated by money worries, by not being able to put the heating on, by not being able to eat enough, all that affects your health. People not being able to then get an NHS appointment, all this exacerbates existing conditions. There's also, the government promised economic growth and access to high skilled, better paid jobs, and there's a lot of questions about whether that is now happening and whether there are those jobs. The government insists that this is not punitive like under the the coalition government, where people were told you have to take any job. They insist people will be supported into the right kind of jobs for them, but a lot of disabled people feel that they've heard this all before, and this is really a trust issue for the government. I posted a story about these welfare reforms this morning, and a lot of people underneath saying, oh, but there's so much money going to, borders and all these other things. And, why aren't the super rich paying more? The government say that they have, they've raised taxes on private schools, they've raised taxes on private jets and lots of things. But, there are a lot of people who say the priorities are wrong. And I think that, that's the sort of reputational challenge for the government, that every time they put money into something, people will say, well, hang on, that money was taken away from disabled people who really need it.
Tamara, really interesting analysis. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks to you for listening. The Daily is back tomorrow.